Welcome back to our channel and our wine barrel series. So we will be transforming this barrel into a patio table. It will have a round table around it and legs to elevate it up, and what we're shooting for is to build the table portion will be at 42 inches off the ground, so it will be bar stool height, and the barrel will be projecting through the center of the table so that you can see the barrel, and you'll have a round table surrounding it. So follow along and we'll show you the process. So the first thing you want to do in these barrels is we have to take off the center bands, not the top and the bottom, but the center bands. So you want to take out these T-nails, and they're sharp little things. So the best thing to use on them is a side cutter. Side cutter is, we'll take them out quite easy. Just give them a bit of a twist and a snap, and they'll come out. And there's usually two on each band. And once you get them out, and then you can proceed in taking off the bands. What I use here is just a flat nose punch, a larger punch, and it doesn't take much because they'll slide off, because usually the barrels have shrank because there's no wine in them. Unless you're lucky enough to get one half filled with wine, give me a call, I'll leave my number. And once you get these hoops off, then we'll be able to start sanding on it. And they just got to be coached a bit to get off. But once you do get them off, they'll slide right off. You can see that I've got this on a saddle. I built a saddle on the first video we did on wine barrels, so you can take a look at that. And what we did on the first one is we turned barrel into a cold and hot smoker. So that's a good view too. Here we are. We'll just get the rest of the bands off. Just have to give them a snap. Like I said, they just need a bit of coaching, but they will come off. This will make sanding so much easier. There we got the hoops off, and what I'm doing here is our first sand. We're using quite coarse paper, so we have 60 grit sandpaper. So we'll just give that a rough sand, and that'll take off the grime and everything. I gave it a broom too before this. Usually they're rolling around the yards or whatever the case, or they collected sand and little rocks. So what you want to do is get it cleaned up on the outside. You can get all the debris off of it, whatever it be. And like I said, take the time and build yourself a nice base for it, or a cradle. It doesn't take much. A couple of old pieces of plywood or 2x4s, and what I've done on the bottom of this one, we actually put pipe insulation into the bottom of the cradle so it doesn't damage the barrel, because we will be using it all the way through this operation. So we're just taking the barrel down with the heavier sandpaper right now. And if there's any rust or anything on your bands while they're on there, you want to give that a sand too. Be careful on the edges with these rotary sanders. If you get your paper or your pad under the steel there, it'll give you a snap and may damage your machine. But it's good to have a cleaner by too. That's a crepe cleaner. They're a good investment. They're inexpensive, and they save a lot of sandpaper. You'll get 2 to 3 times the use of your sandpaper. So we're just cleaning that up now, and this gives you an opportunity to see if there's any cracks that you may want to fill, or anything that's a little bit higher. You can actually see I'm putting some weight on the sander there. That's because there was probably a higher spot, and we just roll it so we can get all the way around it. And once we get this first course off, then we'll go to another one. Now we've moved to a heavier sander. We've got a belt sander, and we'll just go around this with the belt sander and just give it the base a clean again. Like I said, these crepes are really good. They clean up So what we have here is an 80 grit. So we went from 60 to an 80, And we'll just run this along, and be sure to move your sander all the time. These little belt sanders are really nice. You can handle them with one hand, but they can do some damage. So if you're wanting a nice project, constantly be moving around your sander. And we'll just get that down and cleaned up a bit, and take any high spots off. This works really good. You can see I've slowed up a bit there to take a ridge off, and you can really knock down some product in a hurry. These work. It's a good opportunity to flatten out any areas that are high or low. So I'll take my time with this and roll the barrel all the way around, and it'll take off if there's any gouges or anything in the bowl. You can bring them out. The barrels have quite a bit of wood on them, but you want to be careful if you're wanting it to have lots of sort of older color and antique look. That's what we're after saving. The barrels are built out of really nice lumber. They're oak, and you'll actually see that they're quarter sawn oak. There's lots of patterns in the wood and the grain, and quarter sawn oak is really hard to find. It's a thing of the past. So, but it's quite vibrant and alive. So we'll just take off the ridges, and like I said, we're very careful not to get rid of all the color, because we do still want some color. But just trying to take off the square edges of it swelling and drying, and the barrels are actually in pretty good shape. So I'm not even worried about the black too much. You want it to look like a wine barrel. Now we worked through all the different sandpapers, and this is our final sand. We're using a larger 8-inch air sander, and this will just smooth everything out. What I've done is I've sanded the barrel down to 180, so we'll be giving this a polish. You can see the beautiful look of the wood, and we're really trying to preserve the older color in it. We don't want to lose that. As you've seen in the first clip in the video, it really comes out nice. So what we'll be doing is giving this 3 coats of spar varnish, and the first coat I always thin the coat down about 20% with mineral spirits. So you can thin it down and coat it on, and then what they'll do is penetrate the wood and bring up the grain, and then I just give it a hand sand, and we'll sand it again with 180, but it will just be hand sanding. And you can see the cradle works well, like I was saying, so you can just turn it around, and you'll see as we're working on everything, the barrel isn't bound. We've switched now to a bigger sander. This is a 8-inch air sander, orbital sander, and it's got a really nice soft pad on it, so that we can feather any edges and everything and get right up close to the band. This is our final sand. So we're just going to be giving this a touch over and a broom off and checking it all. And I'm getting all prepped for spar varnish. Our first spar varnish gets thinned down with 20% solvents. I'd like to thank Windsor Plywood for supplying us with these barrels and the materials to complete this project. They're a great store, and we've dealt with them for years, and they've always been a great help. So they're the store in the Western Canada and the United States. They're more than just plywood. They have a host of everything. They have a great hardwood lumber division as well. So if you're in the area and out in Western Canada and the United States, check out a Windsor Plywood. You'd be quite surprised. They're a great bunch of people down there, and great products. and they're always willing to help. So thanks again, Windsor Plywood. We wouldn't have been able to do this project without you. So here we are measuring where our tabletop will be going. It'll be dropped down 6 inches from the top. What I've done here is I don't have any calipers that are big enough, and what we've always used in construction and cabinetry, we just use 2 framing squares and put one on either end, and you can divide them up and put a clamp there. You can see where we have the marks there at 6 inches through, and I've just measured there and put a piece of tape on the end so that if I lose my marks, and then once I get that out, I can figure out my radius where I'm going to go. And so that's an easy way to do it. I don't think anybody carries calipers that big, and it's hard because the barrel is sloped on the side, so it's hard to get an accurate measurement, and I want a really good accurate measurement so that when we build the apron, so there's going to be an apron going around this, and the size is critical, and the angle as well. So we'll be setting up a angle finder as well to figuring out how to get that angle at that portion. So I put a piece of tape just on top of the barrel. It's always good to write down your measurements. As soon as you turn away, you usually lose it, but that's a handy trick for a lot of things. So you can use it for stair treads and a lot of different applications. So once we have our size, there's a bit of a schematic of what I'm doing. So what we have is our radius, and then on the inside of the radius, we'll be doing a hexagon. A hexagon is 6-sided. So we'll be cutting some 2x8 yellow cedar, and it'll have a 30-degree angle on it to fill the hexagon, and then we'll be cutting the inside. On projects that are a little bit out of the ordinary, it's always good to do a template out of paper or cardboard. If you've been wanting to use that cardboard you've been saving for the big screen TV, here's the chance to do it now. Or a piece of plywood. But so what I'm doing is just drawing out my hexagon marks now. Just mark the center so I don't lose it. And then once I get all my marks all done up, then I can draw my radius. So there's my radius going in. And I'll just bring that all the way around, and then I can mark where I'll be putting my divisions. So we need 6 pieces. So I'm not going to get into the mathematics, but it's easy to find it, so you should be able. And I didn't have a compass big enough to use with a marker on it, so sorry that you can't see the marks, but I will take a Sharpie and darken them up a bit so you can see where they are, and just following that all the way around. And then what I do is I come backwards on it too to make sure that they're in the same spot again. So what I'm doing is just making my overlaps now. And then I'll draw those out and then connect the corners and go from side to side and make sure that they're parallel. This is an important part of the whole application of the table, is to take your time and make sure this is accurate or nothing else will work. So there's just the marks of the intersections. So there's my hexagon, and I'm just drawing the points of the hexagon, and that's the inside leg. So when we cut our material, that'll be from corner to corner, the inside, and the outside will be drawn in here in a minute too, and I'll just show you where that's going. So and then you just lay around from point to point, and you can check your math, and this should be 30 degrees. So you just lay. I always check at 2 points, so we've checked at that one point and then from the other side. There you can see it's 30 degrees right on, so now you know that your miter joints are at 30 degrees. And you can lay it out on your template, because we need to. Here we are with the full pattern laid out. I actually had to freehand it, but just to give you an idea, so you can see where the radius of the circle will be intersecting at the miters, and I drew out the 2x8, so that's 7.5 inches. And what we'll be doing is running a spleen in there. So there's the drawing of what we're about to do.